Hey, I'm Randy, and you're watching The Cheap Audio Man. Here at The Cheap Audio Man, we like to talk about affordable hi-fi and home theater products. What is affordable? Less than $1,000, maybe, around there. Sometimes we go a little bit higher. You may see some speakers around me. And you know what that means? It's a speaker show! If you're new here, consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you know when all the videos go up. You can probably tell we don't take ourselves very seriously, and when I say we, I mean me, because it's just me. But I am serious about finding the best value in hi-fi gear. I was gonna get back inside the speakers, but I have a tendency to move around a bit when I'm doing videos, and chances are I was gonna knock the whole thing off. So I'm gonna try to staying still, okay? But today we're talking about the Stage A130s by JBL, the Q Acoustics 3020i, and I almost said 3020i, baby, and then the Klipsch RP 500M. They're all 5 1/4 inch woofers, and I like 5 1/4 inch woofers. One, it's kind of like a Goldilocks speaker. So they're small enough to put on your desk or desktop, or stands next to your desk. And then they're also big enough that they, in a small room, they can be two channel system, or the fronts for a home theater setup. And if you ever graduate or get bigger speakers, you can move them to surround speakers. So I've always loved 5 1/4 inch speakers because they're so versatile. We're not going to get too into specs, but the JBL has a 1-inch aluminum dome tweeter, a 5 1/4 inch polycellulose woofer. The Q Acoustics has a 1-inch soft dome tweeter and a treated paper cone woofer. And the Klipsch has a 1-inch titanium dome tweeter and a copper spun woofer. Pricing, well, it's all over the map. The Q Acoustics, pretty steady. They're between $319, $320-ish, and right now I think they're $350. The JBLs are at $300. That's their regular price, but they regularly go on sale for $180. The Klipsch are simultaneously $350 on Amazon right now and $530 on Crutchfield. So if you're interested, maybe get them from Amazon. All these speakers are fairly easy to drive. The Qs and the JBL are 6 ohm nominal. The Klipsch is 8 ohm nominal. These are high 80s for sensitivity, and this is 93 for sensitivity. Wasn't really that big of a difference when I changed them out on the amp. Speaking of amps, for electronics for this, I used the Yamaha CR800. It's a vintage receiver that I just picked up, and I love it. And the Denafreps Aries 2. When I listened to these, I pulled them pretty far out into the room, about 38 inches, so that I didn't have any room boundaries or walls boosting the bass. I just wanted to hear the speaker and what it had to offer. The bottom line is, if you are using these speakers and you're pulling them out from a wall, you will need a subwoofer. Even if you have them close to a wall, I'd probably still get a subwoofer. For soundstage and imaging, they all did quite well, actually. I did not have them towed straight in at my ears. I had them a little bit out, so I wasn't like directly in line or on axis with the speaker. They all did very well. I use MTV Unplugged records for soundstage and imaging. They are recorded very well. All these speakers did a good job of putting the soundstage behind the speakers. I will say with the Klipsch, it did bring voices, and especially treble, a bit in front of the speakers. However, they all did an admirable job at soundstage and imaging, and I have no complaints on any of them. Let's talk about bass. Bass. If you're going to use these, again, consider a subwoofer, but if you get them close to the wall, you may be able to get by. As far as tone and texture goes, it's going to go to the JBL Stage A130s. MTV Unplugged, Alice in Chains. The song is Rooster. The bass sounded the best on the JBL Stage A130s. It just had more detail, more tone, more nuances, if you will. Punch goes to the Klipsch RP 500M, Killing Strangers by Marilyn Manson. Boom, 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 And it goes. It's a good sound. It's a good song for soundstage and imaging as well. But it's also a good song to listen to bass punch. And the Klipsch was the speaker that kind of gave you jarred you a little bit when the bass came in. That leaves bass roll-off. And funny enough, that one goes to the Q Acoustics. The Q is actually rated the highest as far as when the bass roll-off starts to go down. However, it's a smoother roll-off than either the JBLs or the Klipsch. So when songs are very deep, you can actually hear it better on the Q Acoustics. I use Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys. At the beginning of that song, it goes very deep. And if you have a speaker with great roll-off, you're going to give an idea of the enormity of the bass in the song, and the Qs did the best. So they all kind of have their own little strengths. Let's talk about mid-range. Mid-range. Lower mid-range fullness is going to go to the JBL Stage A130s. Again, male vocals, lower end acoustic guitars. Again, MTV Unplugged. Rooster. I say it like MTV Unplugged is the artist, but no. Rooster by Alice in Chains from the MTV Unplugged record. The acoustic guitars and the voices sound more full on the Stage A130s. On the Qs, mid-range is pretty even, Steven. I didn't feel like it was overtly full. I did not feel like it was overtly boosted. So they did a good job. It's just kind of flat. The Klipsch RP 500M, I felt like the upper end of the mid-range was a bit boosted, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Female vocals sound great, and rock music, and I hate to say this, because if a speaker's good, it should be able to do all genres well. But rock and roll just sounds a little bit better through the Klipsch. Now, it sounds good through the Stage A130s. Probably sounds as good through the Stage A130s. But the Klipsch, like the rock and roll. Let's talk about treble. Treble, Nina Simone, Cinnamon. Actually, it'd be like this. The 16th notes on the hi-hat at the beginning of that song are a great way to test for treble, because you can hear not only the detail, but you can also hear if the treble has enough body to sound like it's actually happening, like a stick is actually hitting the hi-hat, because the snap of a stick hitting a piece of metal happens in the treble area. The Klipsch had the impression that they had the most treble. However, if I'm thinking about this from a realistic perspective, the JBLs actually had more realistic treble as far as how the actual music was being presented. It just seemed more realistic. Not saying it's not awesome on the Klipsch. It is, and there is a lot of detail and sparkle on the Klipsch. The Q Acoustics, again, very even Steven. Not doing anything wrong, but not doing anything like jumping up and down and saying, look at me, I'm a speaker. So the Qs I didn't feel like were either rolled off or boosted. It was just there. What are my final thoughts? Final thoughts and awards. Way back when the channel first started, which was like November of last year, end of October, I used to give out awards, kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing. I mean, who cares whether I'm giving something an award or not? The Q Acoustics is a very well-behaved speaker. It's not doing anything wrong. It's not doing anything crazy awesome either. It's just a great performer. Depending upon what type of electronics you have hooked up, here's the deal. The Q is a very transparent speaker. That's a good way to describe it. It's giving you whatever the electronics are giving you. So it's not really coloring the music at all. It's just very transparent to the source. It's probably going to give you very balanced in its reproduction of the music. Now, because of that, some people may consider the Q Acoustics 3029 to be a bit boring. I don't think it's boring. Once you run it for a while, it starts to liven up a bit. I think one gets used to the sound, and it's easier to hear the dynamics of the music. If I'm A-Bing it against the Klipsch or the JBL, it doesn't seem quite as dynamic. But as I've learned and I've experienced, if you just leave a speaker up for a while and start to listen to it, a lot of things start falling into place after a while. It could be break-in, but it's probably more brain burn-in. So the Q Acoustics gets the Obi-Wan Kenobi, just kind of a calm warrior. Knows what's going to happen. So the rock and roll skull is going to go to, you guessed it, the Klipsch. This is actually my favorite Klipsch out of the entire RP line. I feel like it's actually better balanced than the RP 600M, and ironically has more bass. And that's the thing about these 5 1/4 inch speakers. A lot of times I feel like they have more bass than their 6.5 inch bigger brothers. Case in point, the RP 500M, also the ELAC debut B5.2 and 6.2, which aren't here because I don't have either one of them anymore. So, King of the Jungle, the Lion, I'm going to go to the JBL Stage A130. This speaker just seemed like it had everything where it was supposed to be and still sounded exciting and dynamic at the same time. Although none of these did great pulled out into the room from a bass perspective, the tone and texture on the Stage A130s and the clarity of the bass was fantastic. The mid-range neither felt boosted or forward or scooped out. It just felt detailed. The top end with an aluminum dome tweeter gave me enough clarity, but was never shouty at all. The Klipsch can get a bit shouty in the upper mid-range and the top end. But with the JBLs, I felt like they walked that line, but they pulled back right before it got shouty. The good news is also the Stage A130s often go on sale for $180. So they are far and away the most affordable speaker up here. And in my opinion, it's also the most well-rounded speaker up here. But all these speakers do some awesome stuff, and I don't think you can really go wrong with any of them. But they all have a bit of a different personality. So if you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night we have patron-only Zooms. We also have a patron-only Facebook group. All these products will also be linked in the description. If you click on the link and you use them, then I do get a small commission. You can also sign up for Amazon Music. Click on the link, sign up. You get 3 months for free. I think you get 3 months of Disney Plus for free. And I get a couple of dollars. I have some playlists linked in the description, my test track playlist, as well as the Satanic Panic and leg warmers. So don't binge watch anything. Binge listen through one of your new 5 1/4 inch woofer speakers, the Klipsch or the Q Acoustics or the JBL, and fill your soul with happiness. So with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.